Hello and welcome everybody, it's Matt from Pure MTG, and today I've got a follow-up on our Commander Raids format that we have for ya. So, we've got a 0.3 version here. A little while back, probably a few weeks ago, looks like on January 26th, we sent out a video saying that the baseline version here would be available for playtesting. We did a lot of playtesting ourselves. We had some feedback in the Discord. If you're not on the Discord, make sure to click on the Discord link. It'll be either in the description of the video or in the playtest document. For those of you that aren't aware, this Commander Raids format is basically just a PVE format. If you're not familiar with that is, player versus environment. Basically, if you want to gang up on a raid monster with your friends, grab any commander deck you have, and then fight some kind of monster with your friends, and the monster is kind of designed to mimic another player, but kind of like an arch enemy-ish style. But kind of randomly generated by whatever it does by a die. So that's what these charts mean. So these charts, boom, you're able to roll on each of its turns and select one, and you know, do one of the effects that it has. So previously, just the baseline was available for playtesting. We're pretty happy with the way this version is. It's quite good in what we wanted to do as a core template of the game. And this is what we were really been focusing on to kind of get like I said, just a template. So this is the basic version, the Commander Raids, kind of like the poster child, I guess you'd call it, as far as the baseline is concerned. And this is kind of what the most majority of players are going to play. But you also have the ability to play test the easy version. We want this to be good for new players, for casual players. Not to say that casual is bad or anything, but of course, if you want to just kind of relax, have some fun, this should be fairly easy. What we need a little bit more playtesting to figure that out. At the moment, we've been playtesting it versus low-power precon decks, something like Striffon, and there was like an elf deck precon. I forget what the commander is, but elf deck precon. They're low power in the general scope, but decently powered commander precon decks. And this is kind of designed to have a pretty good, you'd have a pretty good win rate with those kind of decks versus easy mode. But these do need playtesting. So basically what we did was we took the baseline mode and we made it so that it was easier, and basically transitioned this kind of format. If you're not familiar with what we did, basically we took the feedback from Discord and from Reddit, and we took the feedback stating that, like, you know, there was too many board wipes, too many, not enough like targets for like destruction, for artifacts and enchantment removal, stuff like that. And that was all kind of tied into being able to create these artifact defender death touch creatures that they're very impactful in what they do, because it provokes your creatures and you have to attack. It makes targeted removal very strong because, you know, there's a lot of decision making in that way. I think this is more interactive, the ability to you know, actually use those spells to kind of like, you know, mimic. You know, like, say if you have to attack with something, you can attack and then kill the thing to block it. Basic kind of pseudo-choosing how blocks are done. Stuff like that. Either way. So you'll notice that those are there. So this was basically the baseline version. This was playtested fairly thoroughly. And then I recently just went and I was like, okay, take that same principle and make it easier. So you'll notice that a lot of these are easier. They're choice-based as opposed to... In this one, for instance, destroy target legendary permanent with the highest converted mana cost. In the easy mode, this is just destroy target legendary permanent of the player's choice. So you'll notice you'll have more choice in this, so it's not so bad. And like I said, this is basically, like, if you want to introduce, like, a kid to Magic, or a family member that's never played, like, a card game, I think that this would be a really good way to introduce somebody to the game, the game of Magic, and even Commander in general, because... what this does is this puts you on the same team. This allows you to, you know, co-op and take down this monster, and it just allows you to be more friendly. There's not really many feels bads as far as like the, you know, if you destroy somebody's monster, they might not feel good if they're a new player. Yes, this can destroy some things, but like I said, it's designed to be easier. And then we have a new mode that we're calling Brutal Mode. This is basically designed to be very difficult. You'll see there's a lot more words, a lot more text in these blocks, a lot more effects. In the past, it was called hard mode, but quite frankly, it wasn't hard enough. A lot of the more powerful deck can win on like turn 3 to 5. If you have like a very strong deck that is doesn't, if you have a deck that basically wins by no interaction, then this doesn't do anything against that. So what it has to do is it has to, every roll that it gets to do, it has to be impactful. It has to be brutal. It has to be hard. It has to suck. One thing you'll notice that in every other table, 20 is like a yes. This is for us. In brutal mode, there is not that. A 20 is basically a cyclonic rift. So that's not great for the player. Great for the raid monster, not great for the player. You'll also notice there's some things baked in as like before. This is now destroy target legendary permanent, the highest converted mana cost. And then it has some if clauses, because a lot of times that when you'll roll, when you're playing in the raid versus a raid monster, you'll roll and it won't affect you. Well, now this has if clauses. So if it isn't able to destroy the legendary permanent with the highest converted mana cost, there's still an if clause. So for instance, this one's if a permanent was not destroyed this way, discard a card. Then there's also if you lose 5 life. This one's return a land to your hand. And then this one is a little different. This one's a little worse. This one destroys the creature with the highest converted mana cost, and then it sleeps all your creatures. And then I'll get to untap during the next untap step. Again, this mode, it's called brutal mode for a reason. Hard mode wasn't probably hard. It wasn't hard enough at the time. This one I really want. I want this to tax. I want this to tax the patience. Some people like, difficulty, and I think the hard mode wasn't hard enough. I think that this mode, this baseline mode, has become slightly more difficult but more interactive. And I think that in general, overall, it's probably best for the majority of players. And then if you like a challenge, I think that brutal mode is going to be, pretty interesting. I will say that both easy mode and hard brutal mode have not been playtested at all. This was just me, just in the last few hours, looking through this and going, okay, how do I make it more difficult and how do I make it easier? So this is most likely going to be the last playtest document for the baseline rule set. And like I was saying, like this is going to be like the template. And then we have a lot of cool things coming up. There's the tower mode that we had mentioned in a few other videos, saying that it'd be kind of cool to be able to like climb floors, almost like a Mortal Kombat tower. Or if you've ever played Slay the Spire, there's like a path that you can take, and then after each dot or whatever you want to call it, you get a boon, or you get a card that you can put into your deck, or you can buy from the shop, whatever. Well, the tower mode that we have, it's going to be pretty cool. I'll just give you a generalization of what it's going to be like, because it's not really in full. We have just ideas in my head. I haven't written them down yet. But basically, you'll have a few monsters that you'll fight. You'll fight them one-on-one. You'll never fight 2 at a time unless maybe there's like a crazy like hard mode or something like that where you're fighting 2 monsters at a time, which probably is insane. But sure, why not? It'd be cool. Give it a shot at least. Maybe there's like some dual monsters that, 2 monsters at a time, but their ability tables are shared, and basically, okay, so the basic concept is that you'll pick a monster, you'll fight the monster, it'll have a static ability, and then it'll also have its table, just like you see here, this table, but it'll be more tailored and more interesting. It'll be way different than like this you'll see here. This is more generalized, basic. We want this to be able to be played with a very few materials, just a D20 and nothing more than that, really. You can hit the tokens that we have available. If you're a patron, you'll get the tokens. If you come play with us in the Discord, you'll be able to get a copy of tokens sent out to you. One time, of course, but yeah, there's just 2 tokens that we have for the minions. I don't have the pictures readily available, but they're pretty cool, and they're physical tokens that we had printed from Make Playing Cards. Those guys are awesome. They make good quality cards, and so the tower mode is going to be way different. It's going to be it's going to require some setup. A lot of people were like, they had like really cool ideas for the template baseline mode of Commander Raids. But that would require a lot of setup time or more, like carrying more stuff around. Ideally, Commander Raids itself can just be played very easily anywhere, short amount of time. If you have 20 minutes, you could typically get through a standard Commander Raids game. But the tower mode is going to be interesting. So you'll fight the monster one at a time. They'll have the static ability of each monster. For instance, one of them was Rona, Shieldred's Disciple, where anytime you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you lose a life. That's just always, it's like an emblem. It's always available. It's always happening. Basically, think of like the creature being on the field, and that effect is just up there. And that never goes away while you're fighting Rona. Also, there's going to be an introduction of things called boons and blights. So boons, you'll get a boon. You'll get a choice of a boon at the end of every monster kill, whenever you kill a raid monster. And what it'll be is it'll be a selection of boons, roughly 50 to 55, maybe even 60. I think the official count was 55, but that might change. Playtesting and whatnot. But so there's going to be 55 total boons per tower. There's going to be a set of standard boons, which is like we'll call them generic boons, and those will be the kind of generic pool of boons, and that'll be 45 of those, and those will be like rarity tiered. So there will be common, same kind of in Magic, common, uncommon, rare, and mythic. You'll have the majority of them being common, and then less being uncommon, and then less of those being rare, and then less of those being mythic. Then you'll also have a set of, a number of those being specific to the bosses that you add to the raid. So the bosses will have their own boons tied to, like when you add, for instance, Rona, she'll have her own, like we'll say, I think it's something like 4 commons, 3 uncommons, 2 rares, and 1 mythic. And that'll be added to the pool. You shuffle the boons together. And then when you kill a raid boss, you're able to flip over 3 of them, and you get to select one of those as your boon. And think of a boon like an emblem. It's always out there. It's for the entire tower. However many monsters you decide to fight. That's the kind of cool thing. It kind of scales. You could get some pretty crazy interactions. One of the boons would be something like at the beginning. I think this was a mythic one for Shieldred. Was at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain a life for every card in your hand. That's pretty good, and that's just an emblem that's out there all the time, and that'll continue through the entire tower as you're fighting multiple bosses. So if you kill Rona, one of the emblems was, I think it's you gain 2 life every time you cast an instant sorcery, something like that. That might have been like a rare or an uncommon, but it is designed to be powerful. It's designed to be really fun. It's designed to have the kind of same play style as like a Slay the Spire, where you're actually like going through it, and maybe you'll get a crappy run, the boons are crap, and then you just restart the tower and you play again. That's kind of like the cool thing, is like you're able to create these crazy things. And you can also even make a deck that's designed specifically for the tower that will like take advantage of the boons that you could get, cool combos with that or whatever it may be. There could be generic boons such as at the beginning of a combat, give target creature double strike until end of turn. There could be all kinds of stuff. Basically, just think of emblems that stay out there as a boon, and they stay for the entire tower. So when you get a boon, awesome. But there are things called blights. Blights are things that the raid monsters are going to give to you. So, for instance, Rona gives you a blight that, when you get the blight, you flip over the top card of your library, you take a blight token, you place it in front of the card. Most likely you'll have to print it out from like a piece of paper so it doesn't make the card too thick. We don't want to make them physical cards because then it gets a little strange. I think the best play, unless anybody can think of a better way, would be to print them out, and you kind of like, when you do proxies of over cards, you print them out and you slip a piece of paper in front of the card. Well, this is like blighting the card itself. So what it does, you flip over the top card of your library, you slip the blight card in front, and then you shuffle the blight card back in. And maybe we'll go down to the bottom of the library. We're not 100% sure exactly how that's going to work. I haven't quite figured which is like the best and easiest, because I want it to still be smooth. I want it to flow. But shuffling in makes more sense, I think. So the blighted card, not only does it just go in and cover the card, it is an artifact that when drawn, it immediately goes onto the battlefield. Like, kind of think of Miracle. It immediately was played for free, and it has, if you control this at the beginning of your upkeep, you take a damage for each one that you have, each blighted card. It also has an activated ability of pay 4 colorless and then cure the blight from the card. And then immediately you can play the card underneath the blighted card. And yes, I mean play for free. So if it's a land, you get a free land for the turn. If it's a spell, if it's an omniscience, you get an omniscience for the turn. It's free. What it kind of does is because she's giving you blights and kind of like blighting the deck, it could be crazy where you could have like 5 or 10 blights in your deck. It's covering some of the cards you could potentially need, and you have to get those cards, unblight them, and then actually be able to use them or whatever. So it's designed to be a negative, obviously. There are some blights that are designed to be negatives that actually could be a positive, and because blights stay in your deck until you're done with the tower, I could see a scenario where some blights that are in your deck could be bad in the beginning, but then when say you go to the next fight, it's better for you to have those blights in the deck. For instance, Sheoldred, one of her blights are immediately draw 2 cards. And you may say, wow, that's really good. You get a divination right off the rip. Yeah, it is pretty good. Except Sheoldred has her abilities. Sheoldred, the 4-drop one, the 4-drop 4/5 Death Touch, where she has whenever an opponent draws a card, lose 2 life. So you're drawing the card, the blight. That's 1 2-life loss. And then you're also immediately drawing 2 more cards, so you're also losing 4 more life. So you're losing 6 life from that 1 draw, and she has the ability to give you multiples of those. And then we haven't 100% decided what to do with the unblighted card, because basically for her blights, whenever they're played, it unblights, or the blight is cured. I don't know. There's one cleanse the blight, probably is going to be the terminology. We're not 100% sure what that's going to mean as far as like what the card does. Does it go to the library? Does it shuffle back in once it's cured? Does it exile? That'd be kind of brutal. Does it go to the graveyard? Maybe it goes to the graveyard in the cleansed version. But either way, so those are the cool things that we have in the pipeline. Please playtest the version 0.3, and if all goes well, that this will be the new standard Commander raids that'll be version 1. And not to say that these will ever change, these won't ever change, but basically we wanted to get the standard baseline rules into a really good spot, and I think that the baseline rules, these rules here in version 3, I think that these are in a very good spot. Bob and Pat agree, and a lot of people that have given us feedback on it have agreed. They haven't really said anything criticizing of this version, of the baseline version. The only thing I have done, which may need to be changed back, depending, but I've changed the HP from 25 to 30 per player. That's just a small minor change that I felt needed to be done. That may need to be reverted back. But again, this is why playtesting is a thing. I did this without consulting Pat and Bob, but I feel like they might agree that I feel like sometimes it doesn't have enough life to put up a good enough fight to roll enough dice in the baseline mode. A lot of times it just feels kind of like, yeah, we did it. I don't know. I guess I like the more brutal things. So I'll definitely be trying this on my own. This can be pretty brutal, which is why it's called brutal mode. But yes, anyways, thanks for watching, and hope to see you guys in the Discord. Join the Discord. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the video, and I hope to play with you. Like I said, we have a looking for group system in our Discord. Always welcome to play. My best available days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Any other day, I'm basically busy. So unless it's nighttime. If it's nighttime, like I'm talking like Eastern Standard, like past midnight, then I'll probably be more available during different days. But it just depends on when. But yeah, come into the Discord and ask for playing, and we can either introduce you to the format, and if you've already read the playtest document, maybe you have some questions, you can ask in the general questions thing. Give us feedback as well. You should be able to join the Discord link here and also in the description. If you want to email us, there's an email there. Bang. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.